Hello guys, welcome to two-step equations with variables, of course. Now today, I would like to talk about this concept because it is a bit more complicated than one-step equations, but it can be helpful. Now, I will show you in the next video some possible word problems with two-step equations. But first, you have to figure out how to solve them. So, in this video, you're going to learn about two-step equations, which, side note, you also have to learn how to do one-step equations in order to do two-step equations. So if you have zero idea what one-step equation even is, you've never heard of it in your life, then check out my video on one-step equations and do the word problems, and then get back to this video, and now we're going to start with our first problem, two-step equations. Now, in usually a one-step equation, you usually have something like this. You would have a coefficient sometimes, but you would always have a variable and a constant, which usually equaled another constant. But in two-step equations, it's a bit more complicated than that. In fact, it's basically the same thing as that. A variable, a constant, which does equal a constant, but to make things interesting, we have another variable. And that's called two-step equations, when there is a variable plus another constant, which equals another variable plus another constant. So, let's get started. In the last video, I talked to you about one-step equations, but this is actually going to be a bit more complicated. Now, you see these two coefficients? You're going to have to figure out which is your lowest coefficient. In this case, it's fairly easy. It's this one, 2. So that means that's what you have to get rid of. So you subtract 2x on both sides, and you get x plus 3 equals 3. Because this thing is completely gone. It's just this. In this case, you just have to subtract 3 from both sides because, again, balancing rule, everything has to be exactly taken out as the exact same numbers. So x equals nothing, basically 0. And if you don't believe me, you can take a look at this. 0 times 3 is nothing. Nothing plus 3 is 3. And 2x plus 3 is 0 plus 3, and that equals 3. So that's your answer, x equals 0. And now, in these two-step equations, you might be shown sometimes where x might be basically just 0. So that there is a possibility. So basically, yeah, that's the laydown of it. But why don't I show you guys another problem which can also be solved, but a little bit more complicatedness in this. 2.5x plus 3 equals 3x plus 5. I'm going to do everything on one screen. Note, it might get a bit messy, so I will show you guys if anything is confusing. Alright, so again, lowest coefficient is right here. Just a small hint to you guys. But if you guys are fairly confident with this in this one problem, you guys can try to figure it out. You pause the video and try to figure it out on your own first. And if you guys don't really understand it, I can show you guys it right now. Okay, I'm assuming you guys have paused the video and tried it on your own. Now, let's try to solve this thing together. Now, the lowest coefficient is this one, right over here. So we have to subtract 2.5x from both sides. Or you could do 3x, but I think the lowest one is fairly easier. So 2.5x minus 2.5x is nothing. So it's just 3. 3 equals 0.5x plus 5. Now you just have to subtract 5 from both sides. And you get 0.5x equals -2. Alright, now let me get rid of all this work below. Okay, so 0.5x equals -2. So that's what we got. But that's only half the problem, because 0.5 is only half of x. So 0.5x equals -2. You have to multiply 2 on both sides, because 0.5 is only a half of x. X equals -4. And you guys can check your work too. -4 times 2.5 is -10, plus 3 is -7. -7 equals -12 plus 5, which also equals -7. So -4 is the right answer. Now that I've shown you guys two problems, one more complicated than the other, let me show you guys a problem which you guys can solve on your own. Okay, so let's see. We could do, okay, what about 7? Nah, not 7. 7D. How about we do 7x instead? 7x plus 5 equals 3x plus 4. I'll be easy on you guys right now, and then we'll do decimals later. Okay, pause the video and see if you guys can figure this one out. And if you can, great. Alright, I'm assuming you guys have paused the video by now and figured it out. If you guys need more time, you guys can pause the video for more time. Now, let's solve this. Now, we know that this coefficient is less than this one. So that's what we subtract on both sides. 4x plus 5 equals 4, because 3x minus 3x is nothing. And now 4x plus 5 equals 4. You have to subtract 5 on both sides. And you get 4x equals -1. Now x equals -1 divided by 4, or 0.25. -0.25 to be more specific. Now you guys can double check your work too. -0.25 times 7 is -1.25. Okay, so, that's negative 1.75, my bad. 1.25, yep. Okay, plus 5, which gets you from 5 minus 1.75, which is 2.75, 3.75, 4.75, 3.25. So 3.25 on this side, and 0.25 plus times 3, my bad, is -0.75. Plus 4 is 3.25. So finally, that's your answer. X equals -0.25. Now, here is another problem. That was fairly more complicated than I thought, but here's a bit more complicated problem. Or you guys might have thought that was too easy, right? Alright, so here's a bit more challenging problem. 2.5x plus 3 equals 3.5x plus 4. Okay, you guys can pause the video again to see if you guys can try to figure it out. I can rewrite the problem. Okay, now you guys can pause the video and see if you guys can figure it out. Or you guys can try to figure it out in the few seconds that I'll give you guys. Okay, I'm assuming you guys have paused the video and figured it out, or you guys already figured it out already. But let's figure this out on our... After we figure that out on our own for a moment, let's do it together. Now, again, coefficient, this is lower. So 2.5x on both sides. So, that is 3. 3 equals 0.5x plus 4. Again, you have to do one-step equation rule and isolate it. So, you get... Oh yeah, I just realized that's a different problem, but that's okay. We're going to roll with the flow. -1 equals 0.5x. Now, that's, again, we're not done with the problem completely yet. 0.5x equals -1. So you have to multiply it twice. You have to multiply it by 2, right, to find 1x. And that is -2. -2 times 2.5 is -5. Plus 3 is -2. Equals -2 times 3, which is -6, plus 4, which is -2 also. So, x equals -2. Now, here was the problem that I had accidentally put it differently. Here's the real problem. They do look kind of similar, don't you think? Yeah. Okay. So, let me get rid of that. Okay. So, 3.5x plus 4. Pretty positive that's the problem I showed you guys earlier. Again, you guys can pause the video and see if you guys can figure it out. Or you guys can quickly do it on your own. But the quicker you do it, the less your probability of accuracy. Okay, so if you guys need more time, you guys can pause the video, but let's figure it out together. Now, again, we already established that this is the smaller coefficient. So you subtract that amount. 3.5x minus 2.5x equals plain x. X plus 4, and that's 3. So, again, you subtract 4 on both sides because, again, things must be equal and you must isolate this variable. So, -1 equals x. Now, I think you guys might have seen a pattern. If a possible number like this, a number like this, I should say, or a decimal, is bigger than this by exactly 1, it makes the problem fairly easy to solve because it's easy to isolate x. So, yeah, -1. But you guys can double check that too. -1 times 2.5 is -2.5. Plus 3 makes it 0.5. 0.5 equals -3.5 plus 4, which is -3.5 plus 4 is 0.5. So -1 is your answer. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video about math, two-step equations. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.